Good afternoon, my name is Zuzanna Filipiuk and I'll be talking about the image of disability in the film industry and its sociocultural implications. First, I'll look at the disability in the word, at definitions, at statistics. Then I'll move on to the historical portrayal of disability throughout time. Next, I'll look at the social cultural implications. And finally, I'll propose a solution to the problem posed by the current portrayal of disability in film. So firstly, according to the United Nations, about 15% of the world population has some kind of disability, but only 2.5% of the speaking characters in the film industry could be considered to have some kind of disability. So there's a clear statistical inequality, which results in a sense of exoticism when a character with disability does appear on screen. And this only enhances the social division and alienation people with disabilities experience on a daily basis. But what is disability exactly? Well, in the United Kingdom, you are disabled if you have a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term negative effect on your ability to do normal daily activities. But this definition is quite simplistic because there are people with physical or mental impairments which do not stop them from performing these daily activities. So instead, I would like to propose a definition by World Health Organization. They say that disability is created by factors in a person's environment that, through their absence or presence, limit functioning and create disability. And I think that one of these factors would be the portrayal in film and in media, because of how popular it is in our current life. And we experience it on a daily basis. We see films every day. My research is based on the theory of semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use of interpretation. And a film theorist called Pasolini proposed that the semiotic code of cinema is the semiotic code of reality. So this basically means that whatever we see in film or on screen generally can impact our understanding of the real world and vice versa. Another theorist, Paul Hunt, he came up with 10 disability stereotypes we see in media. He said that people with disabilities are usually portrayed as pitiable or pathetic, as a victim, as someone sinister, as the super cripple, or they are used to create an atmosphere or to make an audience laugh. They're also shown as aggressive avengers, a burden, someone non-sexual, or someone who simply cannot partake in everyday normal life. And I'll look at how these stereotypes are present throughout the history of film. Before World War II, there was a clear social division, an us versus them narrative when it came to people with disabilities and people without disability. And this division was especially clear in films. For example, in Freaks from 1932, there is a clear social division between circus performers with disability and without disability. And the circus performers with disability are exploited by the other circus performers. They are laughed at and they are basically patronized throughout the film. But even though the film shows disability in a favorable light, maybe, by the end of the film, the characters with disability, they turn into these aggressive avengers when they turn one of the antagonists into half woman, half chicken. After World War II, as the soldiers started coming back from war and many of them sustained physical and mental injuries, a new representation of disability was born. Hollywood wanted to show the struggle the soldiers experienced when they wanted to get back to their normal life. And sometimes they showed disability or people with disability as a victim of whatever had happened to them during the war. And they showed them as victims, as someone pathetic who just regrets living and cannot get back to their normal life. But in the best years of our lives, there is a clear statement that the person with disability does not want to be seen as anyone else than a human being. As the conflict between the United States of America and the Soviet Union intensified, Hollywood was looking for a way in which the antagonism felt towards Russia would be enhanced, and in which the image of America as the good guys would be enhanced as well. So, for example, in a film called Dr. Strangelove, the us versus them narrative is enhanced by the character of the title Dr. Strangelove, who is a super crippled scientist who turns out not only to be a Nazi, but also someone who is going to be responsible for the nuclear catastrophe which the American government was trying to prevent throughout the film. Finally, today the society puts a lot of stress on individualism, and so the film started focusing on a single disabled character and making the center of the storyline their disability. So they show the characters as struggling with their life, with their disability, as someone who just doesn't want to live. And in some of the films, they kill themselves with the help of others or not. So even now, even though the current portrayal is more favorable than the one in the previous years, I could say, because it centers on the disability and shows the character in their daily life, and that they don't make them into villains, they still do create stereotypes that affect our understanding of disability. So to conclude, the portrayal of disability is changing all the time. Once it's worse, once it's better. But better does not mean good. As I said, it still promotes stereotypes, and there is a tendency of making films about disability, but without the participation of people with disabilities. And the films show a very simplistic human personality, because the films only show the struggle, and they don't show anything beyond that. When the struggle is overcome, the film ends. And we don't see characters with disability in roles which are not determined by their disability. So, yeah. There is also an issue with how disability is exploited in the horror genre, or in science fiction, or in any kind of films, really. But in, for example, Joker or Freddy Krueger, these characters create the idea that persons with disability will always want to have a revenge for whatever has happened to them. And also, there is an issue with creating such characters as Captain Hook, which prime children from the very early age to fear disability in any form. And all of these stereotypes work towards the stereotype threat, which means being at risk of confirming as a self-characteristic a negative stereotype about one's social group. This means that people with disabilities may be afraid of confirming these stereotypes that we see in the films, that these stereotypes may affect their performance or the way they behave in the society, because they feel like the society has already created an opinion about them, and they already have excluded them from the daily life, basically. So how can we change the way we view disability, especially in films? I would start with casting disabled actors in any kind of film, in any kind of genre, in any kind of role, which is not defined by their disability. And especially, we have to standardize the appearance of disability on screen. And an especially efficient way would be via the television programs, because television programs have the tendency to run over a couple of years and they appear daily or weekly. The audience can create an almost intimate link with the characters, and they get used to them. They look forward to seeing their daily story. And so with television programs, we could standardize the appearance of disability on screen, so we can standardize the appearance of disability in our daily life. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you know of any TV programs or films that you think portray disability in a very good way? The way you say it's non-stereotyped, it doesn't have any strings attached, it just shows the person as a person.
The only character I could think of is Lannister by Peter Dinklage, played by Peter Dinklage. That's the only one I can really think of, and not many else. Yeah.
Hi, I have actually watched one of the movies which you were talking about, the 1952 Freaks movie, and it is a bit of a confusing movie because I don't know if it actually disabled people in a negative or positive light, but I wanted to hear what your opinion was.
Which one was the best years of our lives?
The first one that you were talking about, the one in 1952.
Oh, the Strangelove.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that this role or the villainy was built on his disability, but by compounding these two things, disability and villainy, we're creating this stereotype that someone with a disability is just crazy or a sociopath or it's just someone not very likable. Yes.
I have one question from Slido. Somebody has asked, what does super cripple mean?
Well, that's quite hard to say. Just, I think overdrafting the disability, just showing a caricature of what disability really is. So yeah, I don't know, maybe someone, probably super cripple could be identified, for example, with Frankenstein, the character of Frankenstein as well. Just, yeah, caricature of what disability is.
You mentioned that one of the steps to more inclusive film is casting disabled actors in disabled roles and non-disabled roles. I know there's been a lot in the media about able-bodied people playing disabled characters. I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about why that's a problem.
Well, first of all, we are preventing disabled actors from playing roles which they actually could do, and these roles are about them. So we are, by casting non-disabled actors, first of all, we are preventing the disabled actors from having a job, basically. But also, I think that there is a problem with the fact that a non-disabled actor does not have a true understanding of what it means to be disabled. And also, another reason is that, for example, we see the disability on the screen, and it's an easy way of making the audience cry or laugh or, I don't know, identify with the character. But then on the red carpet, we see the perfect version of the same person. So, yeah.